What's up guys? I know I'm getting way ahead of myself because Rebirth isn't even out yet, but ever since the Remake project was first announced back in 2015, I've been asking myself how exactly they plan to incorporate the Highwind into the game. Because if we're going off past titles in the franchise, there are a couple ways it can be done. Given that we know Rebirth will end at the Forgotten Capital, we can compare the stopping point to the original Final Fantasy VII and assume the Highwind won't become available until the third installment of the Remake project. Now I know the developers did say things won't necessarily happen in the same order, so I guess it's possible we get the Highwind in Rebirth, though I'm inclined to believe otherwise. And guys, for all future Final Fantasy content, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. It helps me out tremendously. Let's take a look at the locations we'll be visiting in Part 3 and speculate how they can incorporate the Highwind into the game. Story-wise, we should expect to visit all the major continents in Part 3. After the events at the Northern Crater, the party eventually finds themselves in Junon. This, of course, is where we acquire the Highwind. From here, we can expect to visit Mideel, Wutai, and for the huge Materia storyline, we'll visit Mount Corel, Fort Condor, the Underwater Reactor, and Rocket Town. Even excluding the various side quests available at this point in the story, we can still assume there will be a lot of traveling. The number one way to implement the Highwind I'm sure every Final Fantasy VII fan wants is to actually let us pilot it around the world, just like the original game. I was doubting this being a possibility when Remake was first announced back in 2015, simply based off Final Fantasy X and XII. It wasn't until Final Fantasy XV that I saw Square Enix was still capable of letting the player pilot an airship. Although I have to say the Regalia is probably my least favorite airship in the entire series. From what we've seen in Rebirth trailers, it looks like they're doing the original fans justice. We've seen the buggy, the tiny Broncos confirmed, and we've even seen the new addition of flying chocobos. This does make me wonder though if flying chocobos will make the Highwind obsolete. To counter this, I would expect the developers to simply make the Highwind a faster way to travel. It's also possible flying chocobos are restricted to a single continent and are used more as the local way to travel. Maybe they can't fly across the ocean to other continents because if they can, then what use is the tiny Bronco? If we do get to have free reign over the Highwind, it makes you wonder how landing will work. Final Fantasy XV had roadways that were used for early traveling in the Regalia and later used to land the Regalia Type F. But the world of Final Fantasy VII isn't built like 15. It really makes you wonder where the Highwind could land. It's no longer as simple as allowing you to land in green areas versus not landing in brown, white, or forested areas like in the original. With how dense the world looks of trees, vegetation, different elevations, it's hard to imagine the Highwind actually landing anywhere the player chooses simply because of its size. I mean, in the brief moments we've seen the Highwind, it looks massive. It's possible there might be 3 or 4 landing spots of clear open grassland you can choose from on each continent, and once you land, you can just mount your chocobo for local travel. Another option would be to land anywhere the player chooses, but the Highwind doesn't actually land like in the original. Perhaps we can just call our trusty pilot to drop us off or pick us up, separated by a brief cutscene of the event to mask the loading of the environment. Now the other option is the Final Fantasy X and XII route where the airship acts as a fast travel hub. I really hope this isn't the route they go. We've already seen that fast traveling is available in Rebirth. The only way I can make sense of this method is if the Highwind makes fast traveling to other continents possible. Perhaps you're limited to fast traveling to locations on the continent you're currently on, but unlocking the Highwind lets you select anywhere in the world to fast travel to. As convenient as fast traveling is, I do have to admit it kind of made traveling via airship obsolete. I don't know about you guys, but I rarely use the Regalia Type F to actually travel to my destination in Final Fantasy XV. I would usually just fast travel, and then use a chocobo to get to my destination. This of course could be because you were not only restricted to landing on the road, but because you couldn't remain stationary in mid-air and land exactly where you wanted to, like with the Highwind. You had to land it like an actual plane, which made it very easy to overshoot where you intended to land. And let's not forget how easy it was to screw up until you got the hang of it. As I said earlier, it does appear they're doing the original game justice, so I'm confident we'll get to pilot the Highwind, but part of me is still a little concerned it will get the Final Fantasy X and XII treatment. Let me know how you guys think they'll handle it in the comment section. Thanks for watching.